What if everything you've been taught about happiness was a distraction from the only thing that truly matters? This moment. Imagine this. You're standing under a vast Persian sky, stars spilling across the darkness like spilled wine. A warm breeze carries the scent of jasmine. Beside you sits a man with a cup of wine in hand, his eyes twinkling not with mischief, but with the piercing calm of someone who has figured life out. He pours you a drink and says, "Be happy for this moment. This moment is your life." That man is Omar Khayyam, mathematician, astronomer, philosopher, and poet. And today, nearly 1,000 years later, his message might be more relevant than ever. Omar Khayyam didn't merely observe time passing, he felt it. Not like a clock ticking, but like sand slipping through one's fingers, impossible to stop or grasp. In his Rubaiyat, he returns constantly to this haunting awareness that every breath we take is one we'll never get back, that the present, so fragile and fleeting, is the only true homeland of the soul. This isn't abstract poetry. It's a direct confrontation with how we live. We spend our lives postponing happiness. After this meeting, once I get that job, when I'm less stressed. But Khayyam's question is simple. What if later never comes? The calendar may promise us a future, but nature owes us nothing. That's the paradox. Our minds live in tomorrow, while our bodies are only ever alive today. Make the most of what we yet may spend, before we too into the dust descend. Dust into dust, and under dust to lie, sans wine, sans song, sans singer, and sans end. This isn't fatalism, it's fuel. It's the idea that urgency isn't a curse, but a compass. Every minute matters precisely because it won't return. In our modern lives, saturated with productivity hacks and life goals, Khayyam slices through the noise. He reminds us, time isn't a line, it's a flame. It flickers, it can go out, and while it burns, we are here, alive. We can see this play out in our own lives. How often do we put off joy because we think we're not ready for it? How many sunsets have we ignored on our way to more important things? Khayyam tells us to wake up, to look around, to realize that if there's any eternity, it lives inside the blink of an eye, not in what we plan to do, but in what we notice now. To many, Khayyam's emphasis on wine and pleasure seems indulgent, almost scandalous. But to understand him, we have to look deeper. In his culture, wine symbolized more than drink. It stood for the loosening of the soul, the dissolving of control, the moment when awareness expands beyond boundaries. For Khayyam, pleasure was not distraction, it was attention. A cup of wine wasn't an escape from life, it was an invitation into it. He saw joy as a form of prayer, unstructured, spontaneous, and deeply alive. His philosophy wasn't about drowning in sensuality, but about waking up to the sensual world as a sacred space. Here with a loaf of bread beneath the bough, a flask of wine, a book of verse, and thou, beside me singing in the wilderness, and wilderness is paradise enow. What he offers here is a radical redefinition of paradise. It isn't found in some distant heaven. It's here, under a tree, with someone you love, a book in hand, and the wind in your hair. Pleasure, in this sense, becomes the path to presence. Modern spirituality often leans toward minimalism, renunciation, or asceticism. Khayyam flips this on its head. He says, embrace the world, don't escape it. Eat your bread slowly, taste your wine fully. Let your body feel the sunlight. In each of these things is a universe. Why would you rush past it? In a world addicted to achievement, his idea is revolutionary. You don't have to earn joy. You don't have to justify a laugh or a lazy afternoon. These are not rewards. They are your birthright as a living being. If there's one thing that gives Khayyam's poetry its unshakable depth, it's his embrace of death, not in a grim, morbid way, but as a teacher, as the one thing that makes every other thing more precious. Dead yesterday, unborn tomorrow, why fret if today be sweet? Khayyam doesn't deny death, he dances with it. He understands that life is only meaningful because it ends. And in that ending, there's a strange beauty, like the final note of a song that echoes longer than all the ones before it. Where some fear death and flee from its shadow, Khayyam looks it in the eye and smiles. He seems to say, yes, I will die, but until then, I will live completely. This changes everything. If you truly accept your mortality, then suddenly your days are not to be endured or saved for later. They are to be devoured. Every conversation becomes more intimate. Every moment of laughter becomes holy. Even the sadness, the longing, the bittersweet ache of memory, they become part of the rich wine of life. And that inverted bowl they call the sky, where under crawling Kupat we live and die. Lift not your hands to it for help, for it rolls impotently on as thou or I. This is a call not to despair, but to agency. If the cosmos does not intervene, then the sacred is found within. In your choices, in your pleasures, in your courage to feel despite the impermanence of it all. In our time, this is more needed than ever. With anxiety and uncertainty hovering over everything, from climate change to personal losses, Khayyam's defiance in the face of death is not escapism, it's empowerment. Khayyam didn't wear a philosopher's robe. He wore the skin of a human being, flawed, curious, sensual, skeptical. He didn't trust rigid systems. He distrusted those who claimed to have all the answers, whether priests or kings. He was a rebel of consciousness. While others promised salvation in another world, he invited people to open their eyes in this one. Myself, when young, did eagerly frequent doctor and saint and heard great argument about it and about, but evermore came out by the same door wherein I went. This is the heart of his rebellion, not atheism, but a refusal to settle for borrowed truths. He questions everything, not to destroy meaning, but to make it personal, embodied, real. In a society often bound by fear, fear of judgment, fear of divine punishment, fear of wasted potential, Khayyam offers freedom. Not the freedom to indulge recklessly, but the freedom to experience life on your own terms. This is why Khayyam speaks to us now. In a world of noise, he points to stillness. In a world of competition, he points to simplicity. In a world of comparison, he points to intimacy with yourself, with others, with life itself. And his philosophy is rooted in permission. Permission to feel joy without guilt. Permission to doubt what doesn't resonate. Permission to be curious, to play, to love, and to not have it all figured out. So how do we live like Khayyam? Not by drinking wine or writing poetry, though you're welcome to, but by recognizing that this moment is not a rehearsal. It's not the prelude to your life. It is your life. It means saying yes more often to the things that light you up, saying no to the things that numb you, taking long walks without a goal, watching people, not your phone, letting joy be enough, letting now be enough, and maybe most of all, forgiving yourself for the time you wasted, the dreams you delayed, the love you didn't express. Khayyam wouldn't want you to dwell on regret. He'd want you to pour another glass, laugh louder, and lean into the next heartbeat. Because as he wrote, be happy for this moment. This moment is your life. And if that isn't sacred, what is?